My week 11 money line predictions and best bets. One more time, week 10 in the money line, we went 9-5. We went 4 for 5 now. Back to back weeks in best bets. Essentially, last week, only missing Buffalo, covering the 7.5 against the Denver Broncos. This week, for the first time ever in my best bets, I am making all of my best bets in the 1 o'clock window. There was a game I took out for another game that I'll get into, and there are some interesting matchups this week. So let's just dive into it. Obviously, we know the huge game occurring on Thursday night between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. Bengals are 3.5 point dogs. I'm not gonna best bet it because I don't feel that confident in it, because I really do feel like Baltimore can win this game. But Cincinnati, the game means more to them. T. Higgins may not play, which is a concern because, as I said in Tuesday's recap, Cincinnati, for some reason, when they're all healthy, Burrow, Higgins, Boyd, Mixon, they can beat anybody in the NFL. They can blow them out on any given Sunday. But when one of them's not in there, Boyd drives past. The offensive line doesn't play as well. Burrow doesn't play as well. I don't know what it is about Cincinnati. I do know they match up well against Baltimore, who does have a bad taste in their mouth after that blown lead to Cleveland. And that's what worries me about Cincinnati in this spot. These are two teams desperate. You're playing Lamar Jackson on a short week. I think it's a tough spot for Cincinnati. But if they can keep this game close, if they can run the ball with Joe Mixon, if they can get to the game in the fourth quarter, as much as I love Lamar Jackson, I'll take Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson anytime. This is a rare situation where it's more than a 3.5 point dog. I'm going to pick them outright to win, but not included in my best bets. What is included in my best bets, and I took Denver, who I'll get to in the Sunday night game. They're obviously playing Minnesota. I took Denver out because I wanted a dog this week, and this line's not going to stay. It already moved by the time I started recording this in the late afternoon / evening on Wednesday. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, as of the time of this recording, are 2.5 point dogs to the Cleveland Browns. And I just got done talking about, you can go, if you're listening, you just heard me talk about it. If you're watching on video, you can go watch the last segment where I talked about the Deshaun Watson injury with the Browns. PJ Walker, in my opinion, even at home, cannot beat the Steelers unless the Browns have an historic defensive performance. I thought going in it was going to be a low-scoring game, a 17-14 type game. I think that even more now. I think Najee Harris, Ward are able to run the football enough. They get it to the fourth quarter. Kenny Pickett makes a key play. And we know the Steelers this year, they've been living on the edge. And what do I always say about Pittsburgh? Why do I best bet them almost every single week? Because I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a great defensive performance. I'm going to get a low-scoring game, and they're going to barely cover. And this week, they're 2.5 point dogs. Browns are on 2 backup tackles who did play well against Baltimore, but going up against TJ Watt is a different animal. I think that's the difference in this game. Miami, Vegas. My hunch here is that Miami, they're favored by 12.5. My hunch here is Miami will blow them out. They'll easily cover the 12.5. But I like when Antonio Pierce has brought to this Raiders ball club physicality, running the football, using Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams on offense, and really focusing on stuffing the run defensively. Now, they don't have great corners, which worries me. I think both Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Dolphins coming off a bye. It all sets up here for a Miami big blowout, but I'm already betting one big favorite this week, so I'm not going to bet another, though I think there's potential for not only Miami, I think San Francisco, who's a 10.5 point favorite that I'm not going to bet. Detroit pretty close at 9.5 against Chicago, but I already like another big favorite this week, which I'm not going with this game. I think there's a possibility Vegas can run the football. Maybe they create a turnover, make it close, but in the end, Miami's going to win the game. Chargers at Packers. I'm taking the Chargers -3. And I know I said I'm never going to bet the Chargers after they screwed me at Tennessee week 2, but I'm doing it this week because they're going up against Jordan Love. And we've seen Brandon Staley, who cannot save a lead for his life, which worries me about this game. But we've seen him take out Tyson Bagent. We've seen him take out Zach Wilson. both the Jets and the Bears have, the Bears not as much as Green Bay, but the Jets have a better defense than Green Bay. Green Bay has not played well. Jordan Love, I keep talking about it. He's not the answer for the Packers. They're going to win, 3-4 games this year, and hopefully for their sake, draft a quarterback. But I get a huge quarterback advantage here, and I'm not sure Matt LaFleur is the brightest cat in the room in Green Bay. Starting to think a lot like Mike McCarthy in Dallas. He was carried by who was number 12 in Green Bay. I do think the Chargers cover here at 3. Again, I'm nervous about it because it's Brandon Staley, but they should with the talent that they have. Detroit. It's a divisional game, so again, I really don't want to touch it because I don't know who's playing quarterback for Chicago. Don't know if it's Justin Fields, who I think will make a difference. We'll see if they can get Cole Kmet and DJ Moore involved. But Detroit, I think we'll be able to run the football on the Chicago front. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery have a good game. Amon-Ra St. Brown take advantage of that weak secondary. This could be a Matt LaPorta day as well. Jared Goff in a dome, at home, comfortable, good offensive line. Lions will beat the Bears. My next best bet, my third best bet on the board, I'm going to take Houston, which is also going to be my survivor pick this week, at -4.5 against Arizona. Called Arizona last week, defeating Atlanta. This is a different story here with C.J. Stroud. Me and my partner Josh Young are over at Championship Rings, which the link is in the description below to watch that podcast. We had a great debate last night because Unger believes C.J. Stroud is in the MVP conversation. I don't believe he is. What was he's played? 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His team does have 4 losses on the year. They did start 0-2. I think they're going to end up with 6 or 7 losses this year. Houston's been better than what I thought they'd be. Again, I thought they'd be contending at 7-10, but they're going to probably make the playoffs at 9-8, 10-7, one of the last seeds in the AFC, just because of that weak AFC South. I don't think that they can overtake Jacksonville for the division, but I like Houston here to cover the 4.5. D'Amico Ryans, great defensive coach, has seen Kyler Murray over the years as he was the defensive coordinator in San Francisco. I think this is one of the best bets on the board this week. Another one that I like, and I know it's a divisional game, but I'm taking it here because they got embarrassed last week. Jacksonville is going to bounce back. Everybody's talking about how the Jaguars are frauds, this and that. They got exposed. Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley, Josh Allen on the defense side of the ball. Those guys are going to come out. They're going to obliterate Derrick Henry, Will Levis, and the Tennessee Titans, who I think will have a better offensive game when DeAndre Hopkins could get involved. Now, Todd Bowles really blitzed the hell out of Will Levis last week, and he really didn't have a chance. That Tennessee offensive line is a mess. We know the Jaguars are one of the top NFL teams in sacks this year, despite not having the notable names on defense. I think they get it done here. Washington Giants would be another good bet on the board. Washington -9.5. I don't know how the Giants are going to move the ball. I think Washington will win this game, but I like some of my other bets on the board. If I had to make an amendment, maybe I take out Jacksonville or Pittsburgh for Washington with Tommy DeVito back there. Again, pretty much a waste of time here. Washington's going to win the game. I like Dallas. They're front runners. They beat up on bad teams. Carolina's a bad team. I think that offensive line for Carolina is going to get overwhelmed by the Cowboys pass rush. Dallas, in my last best bet, they cover the 10.5 against Carolina. I already said I think San Francisco here could boat race Tampa like they did last year. Does Baker Mayfield feel dangerous enough? Can't Tampa get enough stops on Brock Purdy to get it going? Maybe cover, maybe make it a closer game. Get it into the fourth quarter, and maybe, who knows, San Francisco gets a late touchdown to cover. I could see that, but I think overall the Niners are going to beat Tampa. This is a very interesting game. Seattle at the Rams. We all remember what the Rams did to Seattle week 1 in a complete shock. They dismantled them. Both teams have gone in the opposite direction since. The Rams have brought in Carson Wentz to back up Matthew Stafford, who will start. Seattle, Geno Smith has not looked great this season, but they pulled off a big win last week at home against Washington. With their schedule coming up, which includes 2 games against San Francisco, one on Thanksgiving night in Seattle, another week 14 in San Francisco, plus a game at Dallas on a Thursday night sandwich in between there. Now, they will get a full week's of rest, as will Dallas, because they're both going to play on Thanksgiving. But that's a potential 3 straight losses for Seattle, and then they host Philadelphia after that. Now, they always play the Philadelphia Eagles well. So, that's one of the scariest games remaining on Philadelphia's schedule. But that's 3 to potentially 4 straight losses there for Seattle. They need this game more than the Rams, who aren't really going anywhere, which is why I will pick Seattle. Buffalo, I consider them for my best bets. I think that Joe Brady, the new offensive coordinator for the Bills, Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, they've heard all the noise. They know what the Jets did to them week 1 on that punt return for the win. We know what Robert Saleh has done to Josh Allen in the past. The Jets have forced the Buffalo into a lot of turnovers. I think Buffalo is more focused this week. They're hearing the chatter. You have a coordinator change. There's an opportunity here for Buffalo to come out, reassert their dominance, destroy the Jets, and for Zach Wilson not put up more than 10 points. I can really see it being possible. I can also see Josh Allen struggling again. The Jets will cover. I think Buffalo ultimately wins the game, but I'm not going to make a bet here. And then I already said Minnesota and Denver. Again, prior to the other lines being out there, I like Denver at -2.5. Quietly, after Denver gave up that 70 bomb to Miami in week 3, they've been playing legitimately a top 5 defense the last few weeks in the National Football League. Russell Wilson is not turning the football over. They're not scoring a ton, but they're not turning the football over. And Josh Dobbs is a great story, but he's going up against Atlanta and the Saints. I think he's actually going up against a better prepared, well-coached Denver team in the Mile High at night. Denver in a little bit of a low-scoring game will cover here. Maybe it's by half a point. Maybe it's by a field goal. Again, a 2017, 17-14 type ball game, but Denver will win the game. And then Philly at Kansas City. We all know the Super Bowl rematch, Eagles, Chiefs. You already know who I'm taking here, even though they're dogs by 2.5. I'm taking my Philadelphia Eagles. I think the biggest difference in this game, I think it will be a little bit more low scoring than what the Super Bowl was last year. As I said on Championship Rings last night, I think it's Philadelphia 27, Kansas City 23. Dallas Goedert missing for the Eagles will affect the passing game a little bit. But I do think Cam Urges being back at right guard will help the run game. Jason Kelsey, Jordan Malaya, Urges, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson. They allow DeAndre Swift to get going. Jalen Hurts gets a little bit of the zone read game going away. A.J. Brown catches another touchdown. And Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. That defensive line will make a play late in the game. Though a lot of the secondary now with Bradley Roby coming back from injury will hopefully help in the slot. And I think Philadelphia plays ball control. They do just enough. And even with Andy Reid in Kansas City coming off a bye, which we know how good Andy Reid is at coming off a bye, the Eagles are coming off a bye too. I think Nick Sirianni will have a new wrinkle in the playbook. This game means more to Philadelphia. You have no idea how much that Super Bowl hurt Eagles fans, even though they won Super Bowl 52 because of the way the game ended. This is revenge for the fake Odin call. The Philadelphia Eagles go into Kansas City. They go into Arrowhead. They prove why they are the best team in the National Football League by knocking off the Chiefs Monday Night Football. So to recap my money line predictions for Week 11. I got Cincinnati upsetting Baltimore. I got Pittsburgh going into Cleveland and winning. Miami will defeat Vegas. Chargers will win at Green Bay. Detroit will win at home against Chicago. Houston will win at home against Arizona. Jacksonville will win at home against Tennessee. Washington defeats the Giants. Dallas defeats Carolina in Carolina. San Fran will knock off Tampa. Seattle on the road will knock off the Rams. Bills at home defeat the Jets. Denver Sunday night will defeat Minnesota, and Philly in Arrowhead Monday night to face the Chiefs in the Super Bowl 57 rematch. Now, my 5 best bets for week 11 of the 2023 NFL season are Pittsburgh plus 2.5. They win outright against the Browns. Chargers cover 3 against the Packers. Texans cover 4.5 against the Cardinals. Jacksonville bounces back. They cover the 6.5 against Tennessee, and then Dallas continues their run of beating bad teams. They cover 10.5 against the Carolina Panthers. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.